All right, did you hear that?
Yep.
All right, I clapped. All right.
Sound like you had a genuine clapperboard there, Vince.
I had a clap right next to the speaker just to make sure it, or the mic, just to make sure it worked.
Nice.
All right. Well, Vince,
Hello.
welcome. Welcome to this ridiculous show.
Thank you very much. Should I introduce myself?
Yeah.
Go ahead, introduce yourself, Vince.
Hello, I'm Vince. I used to work with Mike and Owen back in the day in Calgary. I'm now living in Montreal, working on The Little Prince. Little known fact, apparently The Little Prince is the second most translated book in the world next to the Bible.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, to everyone else that does not speak French, this is news to us. We're like, whoa, really?
Yeah, if you speak French, that's
if you
like...
speak French, it's like what they're... I guess it's what's taught in schools. It's like, yeah.
But of course! The Little Prince. I wouldn't... Yeah. Oh, that's
Isn't
cool.
The Little Prince anime, though? Like, isn't it based off of, like, Japan? I remember there was a kid's cartoon that looked like... that was done in, like, a
I used to watch that, too, but it's based off of a French storybook.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. When I lived in Quebec there, they... the biggest show on TV, I don't know if it's still there, it's Ungar and Fee. And the humor was totally, it was, you had to be French to get it, basically. I don't know if is it still on while you're there, or do you watch French TV?
I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
I just watch Netflix.
Well, I was told to watch it. I was trying to learn French.
Oh, yeah.
So I was told, watch French TV, that's the best way to learn. And, I remember watching Star Wars in French and, things like that. It does help give some context. And, when they had this, their French humor is just, culture's different. It really is. So,
yeah, I know.
Either you get it or you don't. Whereabouts are you living in Montreal?
I live in the Old Port.
Ooh, the nice part of town.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I live in the, like, they're starting to what's the word? Renovate, I guess, a lot of the buildings here. So there's like newer condos, and they're refitting some of these older places with newer fixtures and putting like nicer facades in front of them.
Well, how do you like it?
It took me a while to get used to it. Like honestly. The first week or so, I was just so overwhelmed. I was like, "What's going on here? Like, I don't understand what everyone's talking about," and it was hard for me to get around.
Okay.
But now I'm getting to understand more. I'm not as uncomfortable being here.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
How long have you been there now?
It's like my second month.
Oh,
I moved here
yeah.
in November, and
well, I feel your pain, Vince. I went through the same thing as a student when I moved there,
really?
And I, same thing. I only knew a few people. I was crashing my buddy's floor he lived in Verdun.
Oh,
and
is it Verdun or Verdun? I always call it Verdun.
Well, in French, it's Verdun. You don't. Verdun. No, no. Verdun.
I don't know. I just read.
But Verdun. It was. Anyways, he lived down in Verdun. I was a shut-in. I didn't speak the language, and I was all paranoid. Yeah, it was exactly. I was all paranoid. I can't talk to people. Blah blah blah. But then after a while, this transition takes over. Where it's like, no, I am a Quebecois, even though I don't speak French. It's like, if you want to do business with me, you speak in my language, and blah, blah, blah. You get that sort of joie de vivre, that Quebecois thing. It starts happening.
Really?
If I could do it all over again, I would. I mean, I think about my first year at school there, I hardly took advantage of the city, because of, I didn't know much about what's going on, or I didn't know many people, or I didn't know the language, or I just kind of stuck to my safe areas. Mm-hmm. Which kind of sucked because it really limits you, like me personally. So, but after a while, now, like my wife and I went back. Last time we were there was 2008, and I was just tromping around like I own the place, and it's a fun city. There's lots to do there. But
I'm kind of getting to that kind of head space now because I was kind of thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not really giving this place a chance. Like, you know, it took me
Yeah.
a while to get used to Toronto and Vancouver as well.
Uh-huh.
And I was looking at like, you know what? If I don't actually accept this change, if I just,
Uh-huh.
you know, keep looking back and go, oh man, I miss home, I miss Vancouver
Yeah.
and Toronto,
Yeah.
and I miss
Yeah.
speaking English all the time. I'm not gonna actually enjoy this place, and it's gonna suck because when I leave, I'll be like, you know what? I wish I did more, you know, in
Yeah.
Montreal. So I gotta really just start breaking out of this shell, and just start, you know,
Well, I
stuff.
totally agree with you because it's a great city. I found the like it, coming from Calgary, it's a big, much. I mean,
Oh yeah,
at the time it was what 3.5 million people on that little island, and there's a lot of big city tension. You know, it was nothing like I remember going down de Maisonneuve and some guy cut someone else off and he just wails on his horn and rides it for 6 blocks. You know, just going straight downtown, and there's just that sort of anger in the big city, right? It really got to me living there. You know, it was hard to adjust to that. Coming from Calgary, where people are, you buy something at Safeway and the cashier will say hi to you and talk to you. And in Quebec, or at least in Montreal, you go to like the Provigo and the lady will just throw your money at you and
you know
push
what?
you out
No,
the door.
yeah. Even worse. Like I would go to the
Yeah.
IGA here to go grocery
Yeah.
shopping, and
Yeah.
I'll go. She would ask like, would you like a bag in French, which I cannot
Yeah.
repeat because obviously I don't know. And I would say yes, please, or oui, merci.
Yeah.
And she would not pack my groceries, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Didn't you ask if I wanted everything packed away?
No, they're-
Ah,
Yeah.
I guess I'll
I
have to-
got you the bag. What do you want?
I know, but
Yeah,
alright, I
no,
guess I'll have
there's-
to pack it myself.
There's this thing, I don't know. There's, I'm not an expert, but there's like this. Some people there like there's a joie de vivre, and that's how they defend their rude behavior, right? But they'll just be rude, comparatively. Like here, that kind of thing. People you have a different sensibility, I guess, or I don't know how to describe it politically correctly, but yeah, it'd be nothing for someone. You try to speak French to them, and they'll be ticked off. And then you speak English to them, and then they're ticked off. Like some people were just grumpy no matter what you did or who you talked to or whatever. And we were just talking about this the other day. If you go, like we lived in Verdun, my wife and I,
Oh, yeah?
and you'd go to the IGA there, and the quality of the food was much worse than the quality of the food in Mount Royal, right? And like you could, as the crow flies, it's like 2 kilometers away, right? But there was that disparity, just
Yeah,
the
I
big
kinda
city
noticed that
stuff.
too. Yeah, like certain
Yeah.
areas of Montreal have better quality goods, but I think that's with any big
Well,
city though. Like,
Yeah. Well, you would know. You've lived in a lot more big cities than I have, so.
really, didn't you live in Toronto for a bit? And,
No. I've just been a tourist in Toronto, but I've never lived there. No, just Calgary, Montreal. Those are the main places for me. I've spent a lot of time in Vancouver, and Vancouver Island and stuff. But no, that's it for me. So, what are you doing on the Little Prince, Vince?
I am doing textures and surfacing. So basically, I'm doing what I am doing right now on this podcast. I'm painting textures for characters, and then after that, I bring it into another package, fiddle around with shaders and rendering settings to get everything looking proper. And then an art director comes and says it looks like crap, and then I have to redo it. And
But with a French accent, right?
Does he say "le crap"?
yeah, something like that. And then I got to redo it, and then the whole process starts again next week.
Okay. So, is this like a contract job, or are you there for good?
It's a contract job. Basically, I was unemployed for about 7 months, and I
Okay.
needed a job desperately. So I took this job, even though I was like, oh man, like I really don't want to leave Vancouver, and I
Uh-huh.
have a lot of stuff like I had my condo and everything in Vancouver, and I was kind of like, well, I'd like to keep it and try and rent it out, but then I just didn't have time to rent it out before leaving because I was so desperate for money. I had to just like fly out as soon as I could just to get the job. And then,
Okay.
you know, here I am, you know.
Well, when I
something
lived there, I remember finding a place to live. They only seemed to flip housing one time of the year, like June or July. It was really hard to find housing.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Any other time?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird because
Yeah.
I always thought it would be hard to get a 6-month lease, right? But because
Right.
I'm coming in November, 6
Yeah.
months from November is June, so they're all like, "Oh yeah, it's fine, it's perfect." I was like, "Really? Oh, okay, I guess-
Yeah.
I
They've
guess
got this
I'll
weird
take
thing
it."
there where everyone switches. I guess I don't know because of all the universities in town, but yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to find a place to live, the time to swap is June, July,
Yeah,
and if you're a student coming to town, the time to get to town is June or July.
Yeah.
Coming in August for the fall semester, the pickings are real slim. So
yeah, that's what I hear. Like,
Yeah,
I had a horrible time finding a place here because, well, I found a place, and it was listed as like I'm looking for a 2-bedroom place because my friend from Toronto is joining me as well. So
Mhm.
we both said, all right, we'll split the place and make it a bit cheaper for both of us because he got laid off too in Toronto, and yeah, so I went to all these listings because he was still in Toronto, figuring stuff out before he left, and I said, all right, I'll get there earlier and scope out some places and do all that stuff. So I saw a listing, and it was a really nice place. Like it was furnished 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom place in the old port, and I was like, oh, cool. And it was like $2,500 a month, and I was like, all right, I guess I can split that. It's not bad.
Well, okay.
And then the next day, like when I was making the application, the real estate agent just changed the price on me. He goes, oh yeah, the owner, he wanted like an extra $100 a month, so it's like going to be $2,600 now. I was like, what? I was like, it's fine. I'll look at another place. Like, well, I manage a lot of other properties too. I can send you a bunch of listings. I was like, all right, whatever. Like I didn't anticipate even working with this guy, but all right, whatever. So I saw a bunch of his listings. I was like, oh, okay, there's other place. Pretty much the same thing. Like, it's for 20. I think he said it was 24 or 22. One of the two. I looked at it. And oh, that's pretty good. I don't see anything wrong with it. Like let's take this one then. All right. And the next day he comes back to me saying, oh yeah, the owner he just wants like more money. He wants it for $2,600 now. I'm like, what? But I was like, oh, you know what? I don't want this anymore. I was like, no. Let me negotiate. That's what I do. It's my job. And I was like, all right, whatever. This, if you can't get it, don't worry about it. I'll just look at another place. But he was adamant in getting me to sign. So he kept calling me back saying, okay, so I negotiated it down to $2,500. And I was like, this is getting really fishy because honestly, like I saw this place. It was only like 2,200. Like this is more than what I expected, and I don't really want to take this. Like this is it's kind of like you're conning me here. And he's like, no,
Yeah.
This is how we do things in Montreal. Like we negotiate. And I was like, negotiate. normally I just find a place, it's set for a price, I rent it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I ended up not going with the guy because he just seemed way too untrustworthy to me. Like I just could not.
Yeah.
I couldn't like get a firm answer or price on anything. Like,
Yeah, shady deals, man. That's the city for it. I know. I had my fair share of run-ins with shady characters like
Really?
that. Oh yeah, and shady characters just walking around downtown. Like I ran into a couple of. I guess I got screwed over a couple times in Montreal by
Whoa.
just people, right? It happened. I know one sketchy moment where I didn't have the same you walked away from the deal because the guy was shady. My first apartment that I rented from this guy, and I should have known something was up when I showed up to rent. It was a basement place in NDG, and the guy, he lived. So it was a 3-level, right? And he owned the building. And his girlfriend, this 50-some-odd-year-old Australian psychologist, lived on the middle floor. He lived on top, and I was renting the basement, right? And I go there, and he's this fat, squat man from Ghana, right? And he comes to his balcony, and imagine this big, fat, gross belly, and he shows up with his gold chain. He's wearing a red robe and a red Speedo with his robe wide open, smoking a Colt cigar with a filter, and his hair's all perfectly done. He's just lounging in his, his Speedo underpants and his big, fat, glistening belly. And he comes to the balcony when I ring the doorbell okay, I'm here to move in. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll be down in a minute. I was thinking, oh, crap, what have I gotten myself into? And, later on, I remember going to parties, and everybody knew my house because apparently some local drug dealer lived there for a long time. Yeah, and I didn't
just
notice.
Just asking you.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, the drug dealer guy. He lived at that place, like 1028 Addington, right. And I still remember the address. And, this guy was
just ratted somebody out.
Yeah, well, he didn't live there anymore, right? Like, because it's a basement suite, so there's no light, And when you go in there, later on, as I settled in and I was moving in, you could see where he had whitewashed the walls, and underneath the wall, someone had taken like a Sharpie and written, this guy's name, and screw you or F you, and all the walls in the house had some derogatory comment about the landlord. And he had just painted over it with a coat of white. And when I went to hook up the phone, there were no phone jacks. And I'm like, well, what happened to the phone jacks? And he was saying, well, the guy, the previous tenant took them with him when he left.
What?
I'm like, who takes the phone jacks?
Because, you need those.
Yeah, but it was such a sketchy place. And, I got lots of stories about this guy. And I ended up having to get out of there because he went psycho on me. But...
you had to chase with a hockey stick?
No, that was downtown.
Oh.
I had to chase off this guy's pit bull attacked some show dog, and I had to beat the pit bull off with a hockey stick downtown. Yeah, right by Atwater, right by the Forum.
Oh, right by there?
Yeah, I had a buddy who lived...
kind of nice now. Like,
it is. No, it was nice then. It was... Okay, let me finish the first story, and then we'll go on to the next one. But, so anyways, this sketchy place, I just wanted to finish off. I was going through the closet, and tucked up in the top of the closet, I found an envelope. And I'm thinking, what's this? And I pull this envelope out, and in it is a huge stack of cash, like greenbacks, right? I'm like, oh, money, right? And I pull it up, I'm like, oh my God, I'm rich. What happened? This is, this type of stuff is just, it doesn't happen very often. It was pretty confusing. So I open it up, take a look at it, and it was a huge stack. In Montreal, there's a restaurant called Buffalo Bill's, and they sell hot wings. Mm-hmm. And it was all like free coupons for hot wings, right? Or $1 off, but they're all shaped like dollar bills, and they're printed like dollar bills. And, I found it probably like $500, $600 or 600 of these bills all stuffed into an envelope. I was like, what the hell went on in this place? It was one of the sketchiest places I've ever been or lived. But, okay, the pit bull story. When I went to Concordia there, I was staying at a buddy's place, and he lived right down where we were talking about. Yeah. He lived on the main floor, and I hadn't found a place yet. And actually, I think I had come there to check out the university. I had been accepted, but I had to go and write an English test or something. I can't remember what it was, but I was there previous. I was on my road trip across Canada. And anyways, I'm sitting at this guy's place. No one was home, and I hear this blood-curdling screaming and help, help, help coming from the street just outside. And this is one of those kind of posh streets you see in movies where, it's all nice sandstone 3-story buildings, with all the nice cars parked in front. And
was this St. Catharines, or is this...
No, this was just off of St. Catharines. It was on the next... Dufort, and Dufort was the cross street, and then it was the next street. I guess that would be south from St. Catharines. So it was right on the other side. I don't know if you... It could be René Lévesque. No, René Lévesque's like a main drag. This is just like a residential street.
Oh, okay.
That's...
All right, it's not the point.
It's sort of... I was in there, I heard the screaming. I run out, I poke my nose outside. I grab a hockey stick. I poke my nose outside, and there's this crowd around this car, and this screaming and yelling and crying. And I run up thinking, someone's being beaten to death or something terrible. And there was I come across this thing, and there was this show dog. You know those giant poodles, the really big ones that you know. So this dog, a big gray dog, it was on its back. The owner was holding his dog, the poodle, trying to pull it, and on its neck was this pit bull, and there was blood everywhere. And this pit bull had this poodle by the neck, and the poodle screaming, and somebody, like it looked like a homeless guy, had the pit bull by the hind legs, and he's yanking on this pit bull, trying to make it let go, and the owner of the poodle is hysterical, and you know everyone's screaming and freaking out, and I'm the only one that shows up with a hockey stick, and he's like, help, my dog. So I take this stick, and I just start whacking the pit bull on its spine, and it wouldn't let go.
Oh my God.
And then this grizzled French lady grabs me and tries to take the stick away from me and starts getting mad at me, like, don't hit my dog. And meanwhile, you know, it's killing this other dog. So I flipped the stick around and I used the blade, like the tip of the blade. Oh, you weren't using
the blade. You were just using the butt.
I was using the shaft, and I was two-handing it on the back. Right? Like, you think that would be enough. It would make me let go of something if someone was beating me with a hockey stick, but apparently not a pit bull. So I flipped the blade around, and I crushed the dog right on the bridge of its nose, right where its eyes meet the bridge of the nose, and I wrapped it really good a couple times, and then it decided to let go. But it didn't just, you know, let go. It just casually let go. Like, okay, I'll let go now. No big deal.
It didn't,
it just shut off. It just stopped. You know, 1 minute it's killing a dog, the next minute it's like, okay, I'm done. We're good.
The other dog?
It was pretty wild, and the other dog, I think it survived, but it was bloody, and the owner was, you know, it was just nasty. It was not cool. So, anyways, that was another one of my Montreal experiences. One of many. So,
well, that's the thing. I remember one time you told me, I don't know if it was France or Quebec, that people just don't pick up after their dogs.
Yeah, that's France. And Montreal, too.
And Montreal, too, because it's snowing a lot. So, obviously, there's, like, frozen poop everywhere. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? Like, I come from Vancouver, where everyone picks up their dog poop. Here, it's like, there's this frozen poop everywhere.
Again, I don't know what it is. Like, maybe out west we have a little more of a social conscience, you know, not trying to insult anybody over there.
People in Toronto pick up their dogs' droppings. Like, this is...
Well, I don't know. But in when I lived there, people smoked everywhere, right? Like we always
smoke everywhere here.
Yeah, we always used to joke, I'm French, I smoke in church. Ha ha ha, you know, like they really do smoke everywhere.
Yeah,
and you know, like there'd be a sign at the metro station that says no smoking, and there'd be a guy who'd spark up right there. And you're always walking through someone else's cigarette cloud when I lived there. So
it's still kind of like that here.
Have you been run over yet by one of the street sweepers?
Oh, I haven't been run over, but I had like a bunch of salt just sprayed on me. Yeah. It's winter, so obviously it's like, they're like salting the ground. The truck would come by and the salt would just fly at me. I'm like,
Well, they've got these sidewalk sweepers that go around downtown and they sweep the snow. And those guys motor. They go fast. And, you know, if you're in the way, you got to look out because they'll take you down.
Yeah. I saw one of those at lunch one day. I was like, oh, he's, he's sweeping the ground. And then he just wouldn't stop. I was like, oh, he's coming right at me. Okay, I better get out of the way.
Yeah. Well, when I was there was a whole bunch of, like, there's a lot of homeless people in town, but a lot of them made their living at it, you know, and they're always around the Concordia campus downtown. And I wonder if some of them are still there. Like, do you still go down? You ever go down by Concordia, or you ever?
I went there actually on the weekend. It was jazz club.
Okay.
I've only been there a little bit. I didn't, get to know any of the homeless people like you. But.
Well, no, I don't get to know. You always recognize them because there was always these. They all had their shtick, right? And you know, it was just part of the color of the city, right? Like, you know, like there was this one guy who was missing an arm, and he used to hang out, and people would just give him money just because he was missing an arm, right? And then you'd see him, you know, down the road later on in the afternoon at the bar having a drink, you know, just like there's guys who just made their living, you know, collecting, you know, donations, right?
Yeah. All right, I got
my buddy Johnny.
Maybe one and a half homeless man stories here.
Okay.
All right. So I think it was New Year's Day or the day after New Year's Day, so January 2nd, whatever. my friend from Toronto, he was coming over to hang out, just to visit, and he had his date with him, and we're supposed to meet up with him at John Talon Market. Are you familiar with John Talon, Mike?
I've heard of it, but I can't put a place to my.
Anyways,
keep going.
It's an outdoor market, kind of like Oak Farm Market. Anyways,
right.
So we're at the station. My roommate and I, we're waiting for him at the station, and this guy, like, he was so disruptive. Like, I kind of ignore disruptive people because I'm like, whatever. He's just kind of a loud guy, or whatever. And my roommate, he taps me on the shoulder. Hey, check this out. Take a gander at this. And I was like, what? And I turn and I see this shirtless guy. He's shirtless, but he's wearing like track pants or something. I don't know. Either way, he had his hands down his pants and he's walking around. And he's shirtless. He has like a Santa hat.
Yeah.
And he's marching up and down like this corridor. And he's not begging. He's just yelling something in French. I didn't understand. And
was he
what?
Was he a black guy?
No, he's a white guy.
Okay.
I thought you knew this guy.
Sounds,
oh yeah, that's Jimmy.
I thought maybe
they all have their hangout spots, right? So
he's running around this corridor. He's not running around, but he's walking around this corridor harassing people. And he goes to my roommate and I, and he says something in French, and we don't understand. We like shake our heads, we're like, sorry, we don't understand. And he goes, and he says something like, big penis, big dick. You understand big dick? And I was like, okay, I'm not saying anything. This guy is just weird. And then my roommate, I guess he just gave him a weird look. So he wanted to harass my roommate even more because he kind of gave him a weird look. So he's like, you want to suck my big dick? Come on. And I was like, oh my God, my roommate's going to kill this guy. And eventually the guy he just walks up the escalators to, I guess, harass people at the entrance because, I don't know, I guess we're all being very non-combative, I guess. But because it's -20, -30 outside, after like 10 seconds, he comes back down and he starts harassing my roommate again. He takes his Santa hat, throws it at his feet, and starts like repeating the same thing, like, suck my dick. And I was like, oh God, my roommate's gonna kill this guy because he was just like shaking his head, and I was like, all right, let's get out of here. Let's not hang out with this guy. And my roommate's like, yeah, let's get out of here before I do something. It's like, yeah, don't hurt this guy. But apparently the next day on the news, we hear that some guy got arrested at the trains, again, like, half naked and harassing people. And apparently, he's,
the same guy?
Put into a mental hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, like,
well, when I was there, a lot of the transients were, like, there were a segment of the population there that were definitely, they needed psychiatric help, right? But those weren't the ones you were ever worried about, because they usually kept to themselves. I mean, there was one guy who did a lot what you were talking about, but he was a black man, and he'd have his hand down his pants, and it's like he had Tourette's. He would just stop in the middle of the street and call out something like, and he'd walk around and he'd pull a banana out of his pocket and say, stick him up here, give me all your money, and run away. And it was, it was his shtick, right? There was another old guy who used to sing like World War I, type of music. Songs like "It's a Long Way to Tipperary," he'd sing his shtick, and it was he'd be dressed in this awful, dirty, smelly suit, and like I was saying before, or I was trying to say, my buddy Johnny came to town and he ran out of cash, and he just stood on the street one night and just told jokes. We just made him a sign, and I lent him a cowboy hat, and he just stood there and told jokes right downtown, and he made like, I don't know, $60 or $70 in like 2 hours.
What?
Just telling jokes, and someone got him a hamburger, and one guy, bought him a beer, and We had a great time, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
And here you're texturing models, man.
yeah, what are you
Just
doing?
go down and tell jokes.
No,
Well, that's
I'm
what
not
I
very
mean. Like
funny.
people down there, like the homeless guys, so, like they make a living at it. Like some people genuinely do, right? I guess they do that in every city.
Yeah, I
But,
guess, yeah.
You know, it's not like those stories you guys tell about living in China, where guys walk around with literal holes in their head. Or Chi tells that story.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
people in Hong Kong when they were begging, they just sat in a corner with their hands out.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're pretty quiet.
we make them work for it here, right?
Like, I guess.
What an awful thing to talk about. I bet you someone's going to tune into this thing and go, these bastards.
Yeah, well,
Is
Evil
anyone
people.
listening to this? Like, I don't know who's the audience.
No, I don't think so, but not yet, at least. But who knows? It's on the internet now. So someone will do a Google search and
yeah,
it'll be over.
I don't know.
I don't know.
There's a few people.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe if we tag Mike Perry singing,
Yeah.
maybe get a few more
Yeah.
hits.
Yeah. Singing World War One
Yeah.
show tunes.
No,
There you go.
I think I'm actually going to get a whole lot more hits if I put the tag "suck my big dick."
Vince.
I'm playing the system, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want-
Yeah, that would do it. That would definitely do it. So, well, anyways, yeah, we end up we started talking about all kinds of stuff. I know, Owen wrote a blog post today. I was gonna respond to it, but I figured we might as well just talk about it. But you talked about being a chick whenever you play video games.
Yeah.
I'm never
And,
a check.
Yeah,
Unless
I'm never a
it's Final
chick.
Make fun of
Fantasy, and then I'm forced to.
And then you're forced to?
Yeah, didn't you play Final Fantasy 13? Was it? Yeah, you're playing as Lightning for
Yeah.
No, I didn't play it.
or Tomb Raider.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, but
Tomb Raider, yeah, like you have to be the chick in Tomb Raider, right? But no, I'm like you, Vince. I don't.
she's the main character.
Yeah, duh.
I rather put in a copy of Uncharted. Play that.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. That I get kind of tired of that. Like, one of the things I say is that all the heroes you get, it's the 6 foot tall, handsome white guy. That's your hero. Like you just move them to one thing to the other. I know there's exceptions, but not very many.
Yeah, I don't
I
have
think
money.
you're seeing more of it now. I think the stereotype that gets
do.
me the most is the what was that one game that came out and the lead character was this super skinny, sort of Asian, sort of white girl with long red hair and 2 swords, and she was basically wearing a
Oh.
bikini.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Heavenly
talking about,
Sword.
right?
Heavenly Sword.
Heavenly Sword.
Yeah, yeah.
I hated that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, how shallow can you get?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so
It
exploitive.
was,
the whole,
yeah,
like,
and
concept.
I mean, come on, like you were saying before, Owen, like her
Actually,
costume,
the character
her costume
designs in
serves no
Heavenly
purpose.
Sword aren't bad, but
Yeah, but her
yes.
costume serves no
Exactly.
purpose.
Hmm?
I don't think her costume serves any purpose. Like her,
No,
why has she got to be dressed like that to fight?
No, and actually, it's more the secondary characters who have a decent design. Yeah, and hers is a little pandering. Doesn't need to be.
Yeah, like to what end, right? Like why and it probably helped sales. You know?
But
yeah.
you know what? Here's the thing. The opposite coin is look at a character like Kratos from God of War. He's wearing nothing but a loincloth and a piece of fabric.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
and a bunch of tattoos. Like,
And,
I guess maybe
and
it's,
he's a Greek guy who is white.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I understand. Yes, his skin is white because he's got an ash
The
on
ash
him.
on him.
But
Mhm.
he's a Greek guy who doesn't look like a Greek guy because it's been focus tested or market
I thought you were going to say
tested.
because he's hairless. But
Well, possibly, but like still, like you couldn't. Like, okay, he's going to be some big muscly guy, but what's the problem with making why couldn't Kratos' character have been a woman? What's the difference?
Well, I think it's more the story. Like
it doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
You know, God of War, the God of War was better,
Yeah, I know.
You know, and it's also a lot of the stuff is just basically the Hercules myth. They just sort of transplanted onto this Kratos. Again, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the God of War series. To me, I mean, the visuals are cool, but it just, meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, story-wise, it's very...
Yeah. Yeah, it's not... You know, but I think part of that for us too, like look at our age, right? Like we've been gaming for a long time. I don't get as much out of, you know, button masher games, you know, whereas I gravitate more towards gaming with story, and you know, like The Last of Us was the last game I really played.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And game. I mean, it's a great game. The story's great. It's very engaging, and you know, you feel like it's more of an experience, and you're not. There are button mashing moments, but you don't sit there and play it. Yeah, do you understand where I'm getting at, or am I just starting to ramble here? It's been a long day.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing I want to touch on also is The Last of Us. No character was really stereotypical or very.
Yeah.
Well, except for that guy as a white guy.
Oh.
Like he is.
All right.
He is a white guy,
right,
but there's no reason for him to be. And not
because
not
the
that you
population
have
of
to
America
constantly.
is
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But not that you have to constantly look for it. Like not every character has to be somebody different. But just why not? Like it wouldn't have made any difference. Like did you play the Walking Dead
video game? No.
Yeah. Oh well, the main character is black. Didn't matter. Could have been whoever. But just because, just as a, well, this is just a different guy. But you get in there, like, never did I hear any criticism saying, well, I can't play this. Like, I can't identify with this character.
But you know what, though, Owen? To be fair, though, if somebody came out and said, well, I don't like this character because he's black, they would get, like you get crucified.
Yeah.
Right? You're a racist immediately. It doesn't matter. I mean, what if you just don't like him and he happens to be black? You're still a racist,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
No,
so
but you can just not like the character. There are
but I think that's sort of...
Like.
When I've found with clients, right? Some client work, I've had some touchy issues where it comes to race in some illustrations where they want that person looks too white, or that person doesn't look white enough, or that person doesn't look I don't want them to look African, but they have to look African. Like I've had these conversations with people, and I've had times where they won't actually come out and say they don't want someone to be multi-ethnic or make that person look more white or whatever, but that's what they want. You know what I mean? Like I've had situations with...
Yeah, I've gotten that exact art direction, or that exact direction. I've told you that story, right?
Yeah.
Really? What do you guys work on? Like, here's the thing. Like, when I work on like stuff, it's already like whatever.
It's
like a concept artist has already done whatever, or the actor already looks like however he looks. Like I have no control over it. But what do you guys work on that have? Like, are you guys working on like covers or?
No, well, I'll this one particular example, just as it was flooring in its bizarreness. I'm doing a mock-up of a building, so it's like the front entrance to this building, and they want little people in there for scale, so they want like put in these little cutout people. They're just photographs.
Okay, little people, but not little people.
No. I
got confused. That's a term we use, right?
But that would be fine. Like I just went and started like going through the library that we have of all these different people to find different ones that match the lighting and match the angle of the shot. Because there are all these flat cutouts, so you can only really angle them so much before they start to look odd. So I found this couple walking in. They're like dressed up, suit, and they look like they just come in from a nice dinner out or something. And I'm like, look, this is kind of upscale. It looks like the right it looks like the right thing to put here. Like, these look like the right people who would be walking into this building. So I put them in. I put a couple other people in and set it all up and send it off. And they're like, yeah, okay, we like that. And then, but can you make the guy white? Because the guy was black and the woman was white. And can you make the guy white? And I'm just like, what? And I'm putting these people into the scene at, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning. Like, I'm rushing to hit deadline. It's just like, whatever. These people look good. Slap them in, and then ship it off. Like, there's no intended political statement. There's no, like, I got nothing other than they fit in the scene, and the light looks right. And so then I'm like, okay. And it was this guy's secretary. Like, he made her call and say this, and she sounded super embarrassed, and was and I'm like, oh, I guess so. So then I cut out a white guy's head, stuck it on, and his hand's still black. that's how I sent it off, and they never noticed. So
no, they probably never.
That's
did.
how it is.
See, that's the thing. Like, outside, okay, like, this sounds stupid, obviously, because I haven't worked in Calgary, but it seems like a Calgary thing, because everywhere I go, especially in Vancouver or in Montreal, every poster almost goes out of its way to be multi-ethnic. There's always a mixed race couple in every kind of poster, where it's like in front of TD Bank, or in front of McDonald's, or in front of every store. There's always, like, you know, a black man with a white woman, or a Chinese guy with a black woman. Like, it's always very multicultural almost. Like, I don't know if it's
what I found, though, personally, being in those cities, is like the government in Quebec and Vancouver is heavily socialist, right? And they're very politically correct. Like, political correctness is the name of the game, right? And
but this is advertising. This is.
But it is advertising. But that's the message, right? Like,
yeah, but it has nothing to do with the government. That's advertising, and it's your market.
Yeah, but the government reflects the society and helps and steer the conversation. I felt, and that, political correctness took precedent over whatever the message is, right? Like, you always had to make that a consideration. Like you were saying with your advertising, the one that you did, it didn't matter. The couple fit the criteria for the building. It didn't matter what color their skin was, right? You weren't thinking about political correctness. You're thinking about servicing the illustration, right?
Yeah, like, they fit and the light was right.
Right.
Which is, like,
you were
if you've ever stuck those stupid little people into anything, getting the light right is probably the hardest thing. So.
Yeah, you're going for aesthetics.
Yeah, like, you're going for, actual technical, like, these are issues that you have to deal with, right? But the people who are making the decisions, or these other people who are doing this, they don't look at it from that standpoint. They look at it as, well, no, we have to be politically correct because our audience expects that, or this is what we're trying to convey.
Or in my case, the exact opposite.
Whereas political correctness here, I find that, like, everywhere I go, there's, like what Vince said, it's not just a white guy here. Or you see on TV, remember when we were kids, it was predominantly, mostly white people on TV, right? Now there's always the group, right? Or every commercial now, like a kid's commercial, there's always the group, right? It's never just one race. There's males and females and all kinds of things, right? So they've changed that part of the conversation. Well, I think it's just general.
And that's a reflection of the actual world we live in.
Right.
There's not, and it's not like everybody was white before.
Yeah.
They weren't. They just weren't on TV.
Yeah.
It was sort of messed up.
Well, what I was going to say is, I think once our parents' generation die off, then we're going to see we're going to have a lot less of these types of conversations. It'll be more nostalgia. Remember the time we had that client that said that? Like, what an idiot.
just doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
We grew up, I grew up, male and female are equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, the idea of paying a woman less because of her sex is stupid for a job. It doesn't even register, right? Yeah. But that is still, apparently, allegedly, that's still an issue for a lot of women.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I have a hard time wrapping my head around that because I didn't grow up like that. I wasn't raised to think that way.
Yeah.
I didn't, and that's what we're seeing.
Kind of dictated that. It's like, well, you're a woman. Yeah. You shouldn't earn as much as men. And
do they?
Except for it's who's making that decision. Like you said, does that even enter into your mind? Like, would that even be something that you would think to do? Because I don't know that it would be something that would even come up. Like, I wouldn't even think of it. Like,
I'm more worried about are you
looking
qualified
bad
for
otherwise.
the job?
Yeah,
not exactly. Like, well, can you do the job or not? I don't really care what you.
You're right.
I mean, that's all that should matter, right? But I mean, I found there's a couple of illustration jobs that I've gone for or applied for, where they've gone out and said, "Female candidate preferred," and these are freelance gigs or contract gigs or whatever, and when I worked human resources, if I ever put something like that in an ad, men only or female only.
But why would that be? Why would they look for women only? Is it because they don't want to pay them as much, or is it because they want their female? For any
in two instances, it was because of the company's preference.
Okay.
Maybe they felt. I mean, if you look at the illustration community, at least from like the fantasy games entertainment sort of angle, I would say women are outnumbered dramatically, right?
Outnumbered as in there's more men, or
there's way more men. Like, I'd say it's maybe I don't know, but I would say maybe there's only 10% of the workers in illustration are women, right? In gaming, maybe. Most of the female illustrators I know are into like editorial stuff. They're into children's books. They're into that kind of stuff, right? Like, I do know some that are in games, but I'm saying in general, right? So I think in these two cases, the clients themselves were female, and they wanted to support a female candidate, right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's their business. They can hire whoever they want. But to come out and say it is, one thing is, okay, well, we'll just go through the candidates and only select someone who's a female. But to actually come out and say, well, we only want women, that's pretty bush league, right?
Yeah, it's a bit discriminatory.
Well, yeah, I mean, discrimination's,
So discriminate, but on the down low.
Yeah. Well,
don't advertise it on Craigslist.
Well, I guess, you as an employer, you have the right to hire whoever you want, right? And that's cool. That's fine. We live in a free country. But you should, if you're gonna, it's not a politically correct statement to make, right? Like, if I said, I like when I was doing human resources, if I said, well, no Aboriginals apply, I'd get destroyed, right? Or if I said women need not apply, like, if I said something like that, I'd lose my job. But then conversely, it's okay for this. No one's raked these two employers through the coals for their hiring practices.
Yeah, and
when they're
not public facing, they can get away with a lot more. But
well, it makes me lose respect for the client or the prospective client. Like, I don't, like, well, what's your problem? Like, I don't know. To me, it's just bush league. Well, I guess I can start to rant on it for a long time, but it's just bush league.
Okay, another facet of gender discrimination, or at least gender roles in general, is in society we kind of want, okay, well, you know what, everyone's equal, like men and women are equal, but yet in practice, a lot of women still kind of see themselves as, we are women, so, like, don't get me wrong, okay, I'm taking my experience or what I'm going to say is mostly from dating, which is obviously a different playing field. When I approach a woman, or even when I go out on dinner, it's like the first date. It's always expected that I have to do a certain set list of things in order to pass. Like it's almost like a job interview. Like I have to have a car. I have to have a good job. I have to pay for dinner. I have to do this, this, and this. And it's like, well, is it like, would it be wrong for me to expect, all these other things from you? And it would be, it would be. It would be terrible for me to expect, her to put on the first date, her to, do this and this, her to dress a certain way, her to look a certain way. And it's like, well, if it's wrong for me to expect all this, why is it not right for you to expect the opposite from me? Like, I mean, the same type of things from me, almost. Like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of like almost a double, not really double standard, not really. I'm just trying to find the right. I don't know. Maybe I just have no point. Never mind, guys.
I think what is the key is our society has changed dramatically in the last 100 years, right? Whether it's women's lib, equality, before racism or slavery was even openly tolerated. Now it's taboo, right? But when you look at gender roles and just how our society's evolved so quickly, I think we don't know anymore. Like things that used to be more cut and dry, like men do X, Y, and Z, and they're expected to do this, 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 and women's role is this, and the male's role is this. That was a little more defined, say in our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation. But for our generation now, everyone's kind of, I find, we seem to be kind of, confused.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say there's a lot more freedom. Like, it is equal. And I do like that. I do like being able to go, okay, you know what, like, if I were to turn the clock back, or if I were to all of a sudden go into, like, this vice versa kind of thing and swap, like, ages with someone, if I was like a, like, say, 15 or 16-year-old guy in high school, if I wanted to all of a sudden go, hey, you know what, I want to pursue a career in dance, well, not to say I couldn't back when I was 16, but now it's more like, hey, you know what, you're going into dance, that's awesome, or, hey, you're going to be a performer or an artist, that's great. Alright, obviously I didn't grow up with you guys. You guys probably had the whole, you know what, you can be anything kind of talk. But
to a certain extent, yeah.
Growing up for me, it was like I had to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, something a guy would do. If I ever said, yeah, I want to be a dancer, Dad, he'd be like, ooh, how about we just start, working on math tonight? How about we, how about we start fixing the car right now? Like, it wouldn't be socially acceptable for me. But now I would say it's a bit more, like, easier for, kids, like, just to say, hey, you know what, I would like to, be a dancer. Like, sure.
Well, I
hope so.
I hope
like, as, like, I know, like, my wife, when she taught, when she was a teacher, she had most of her students were Chinese or Asian, mostly Chinese. And it seemed like that was more of a cultural thing in that community where the parents really pushed and they put a lot of these expectations on their kids. And every student had to be a dentist or a doctor, or it didn't seem to be accepted in the community to be, like, they seemed to push so much. Like, it seemed like, is that a cultural thing?
It is, totally. And I think even now, I think the more old school Chinese families are still very much like that. I know that my cousins, who are way younger than me, they're like starting university, and my one cousin, actually, like two of them, they actually went into bioengineering, and they're both female. And they were like, yeah, I got in. And I was like, well, yeah, because there really are not a lot of women in the sciences. Like, it's great that you're in. Like, it's huge, sign of the times. Like, most women don't want to be in engineering. Back when I was in university.
No.
Or the ones that didn't say they did.
Really?
Which, well, that becomes the problem, right? Like, if there's some reason why you think, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But really, like what?
Yeah,
What reason is there? Go ahead, like do it. Like you should, because there needs to be more scientists, just in general all around. So,
I think Mike's right. I think the expectations for men and women over the past 50 years have changed. Like, I know, some people, like, they got married right out of high school. They had kids, like, they were like 20, 21. And I look back and I go, that could never have happened to me. Like, I never would have ever settled down so quickly. And now, like,
you haven't settled down now yet, Vince.
Yeah, you're still nomad.
But I see, like, they're saying, like, I can't remember what I was reading. It was something on, I think Huffington Post or something about, like, everyone's just pushing their families till later in life, after their careers, after they, net B1, after they found themselves and everything. And it's, I guess that's, how society, I mean, our Western societies have been going for the past 10, 20 years. It's like, we're, have more important things to do than to settle down.
Well,
regrets.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, at least from our generation, like, don't, like, a lot of my friends don't have kids. Guys I went to high school with, or,
really?
Owen has kids, I have kids, and, not many other guys do. And some of them are starting to have families now, but,
And I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't a thing.
No.
That anybody did.
No.
Which, maybe more of them should have, honestly.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I think just times are changing. And we're at a point now in our lives where we can actually go, wow, I've lived a bit. Like I've lived 35 years. I've seen a lot of change. And now we can actually talk about it and not sound like idiots. Like I think
I bet you we still sound like idiots. I'm sure.
Probably a lot of people.
I'm going to guarantee it.
Probably to those girls that Vince is dating.
Oh yeah.
But then again, people complain about this too. Or not people. My friends complain about this too, and it's the fact that I date really young women. I shouldn't be. Like I really should not be.
No, you should.
No,
keep
I
it up.
Really shouldn't be. I'm really screwing up. And honestly, most of the problems aren't even these girls. It's mostly me, because I'm kind of like, I don't know about this girl. She has like a weird lumpy neck, it's not perfect, I want a more slender neck, or her feet are kind of gross. Like they kind of.
Her neck is so lumpy. If I kiss it might burst. This is great. I miss talking to you, Vince. You always got a good one-liner. Something that you say totally unintentionally, and then
no, it was intentional. I actually said that.
I know, but
not to.
I know.
Her, by the way,
I can totally turn that around and make that. It's funny.
And Vince, don't take this the wrong way, but I never thought I'd live vicariously through you.
I honestly didn't think I would never live this kind of. Like the strange thing is, imagine me now hanging out with you guys, either back in Calgary or in Hong Kong back in the day. That would have been a totally different adventure.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what we were doing.
I don't think the Hong Kong adventure wouldn't have been the same. Other than we would have also gotten kicked out then too. So that
kicked out.
What? Kicked. I brought that up on the last one. About
Did you mention that time we went to that? I know, like that pirated like DVD video game store, and this guy just got hit, like this. No, he didn't get killed. But he got beat up with that big lead pipe.
Yeah, I didn't say about that. No, yeah, you got beat.
What, for going to the illegal video game store?
I think it was like a gang hit.
It was because it was
you
like.
were there?
Oh yeah, we were. Well, I was oblivious. Owen actually picked up on this before me. I was like, "Hey, let's buy some pirated DVDs," and everyone's like, "No, we're closing up shop." And I was like, "What the hell's going on?"
And then the guy.
Out of here.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't see it happen. I think Cheese saw it, and I was like right
Was he with
behind.
us? I thought it was just the two of us. I thought he was.
Okay, guys, the
maybe
story's
it was,
pretty
maybe it
disjointed.
was.
Why don't you start from the top, because I'm coming in here halfway.
All
And you
right.
guys are already
Yeah.
cating up on
Everyone else.
who did what to who.
All right, back
Yeah, we had
back
an
when
audience.
the
Yeah.
they had. I guess they've cracked down. I don't know, but they had some pretty loose restrictions on what was actually merchandise and what was stolen or pirated stuff.
Yeah.
So you can go to buy DVDs or buy VCDs or video games for.
Yeah.
They just have
This
a bind.
is back in like 2001, 2002, was it?
2000 and 2001. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is kind of like a weekly occurrence. So we would go to a counterfeit store or department store and buy all these various pirated like movies, and games, and, whatever.
You're in Hong Kong, so
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah, and you buy,
in Rome, right?
and mixed in with those is some legitimate stuff, but there'd be like, it would just be a binder, and you would go through it, and you would pick something that you hoped would run in the PS2,
and they mostly like more than likely burn it right there as you pick it. Kind of things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somebody'd like, what do you want? And then a guy disappear into the back for a couple minutes and then come out with your discs that were just like loose discs with something written on it.
Like there was no case. It was just like this plastic envelope, like a burnt CD on it or DVD.
Okay.
So it was one of those places where and it'd be a mix of all sorts of stuff, and they're like I said, some stuff's legitimate, some stuff's just like they're selling hard drugs.
None of it was legit. I can't imagine any of it being legit. I was like, honestly, I would never buy anything.
I've given them the benefit of the doubt.
I would never buy anything in Hong Kong just because it's like, oh man, this is all going to be fake. But as long as you know that and you're not paying full price, it's kind of.
You just did buy something.
Yeah, I bought a fair bit of stuff.
Yeah.
But we're walking through this one place, and they're super crowded. It was probably a weekend, so it's super crowded, and you're walking.
It was the night too. I remember it was definitely in the night.
And you're walking like single file, and it's all hot, and there's like 4 sweaty dudes stuck to you as you're walking, and we just see some guys running, and you just like, nobody runs in these places. You can't. It's physically impossible unless you're parkouring across the tops of the booths, and these guys just come running through. So obviously the whole crowd had parted. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to do this.
Yeah. I was totally oblivious at this point. I was like at one of the shops looking at whatever binder or whatever thing that they had on sale. But, go on.
And I think I saw these guys 2 or 3, and I'm like, like that isn't right, because nobody should be able to run. And then it's like clunk clunk, something falls on the ground, and you hear like scuffle 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 and bang, like somebody screaming, and like bang bang bang, and stuff smashing, and then some more stuff falls on the ground, and these guys run out of the building, and because we're herded along with all these other people, there's no real other place you can go except right past this.
Yeah.
The mess that's left.
Yeah, because I think we're trying to find the exit, and the exit, like the way out, was literally right in front of this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like you guys were extras in like a Chow Yun Fat movie or something.
Yeah. And we look over, and there's like this one booth's all smashed up, and they're just those kind of like glass countertops, and it looks sort of like a flea market, and it's all just smashed up, and all their stuff smashed up, and this guy's bleeding from the head profusely, and maybe a couple people, I'm not sure, but it's not like you could go over. Not like I maybe would have anyway, but not like you can go over to help them or anything, because you just got to go with the flow, and the flow was leaving.
Yeah,
because bad stuff had gone down.
Okay,
and so we just like go out, and I think it was you, because somebody pointed it out to me. That, hey, what's this? And there's like a bloody pipe laying on the ground.
Yeah, I distinctly remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Bloody pipe.
Holy crap. So that was the, we just found the candlestick, and it was Colonel Mustard and went, oh, this guy.
But did you do the Good Samaritan thing, or were you like, no, we're in Hong Kong, time to get the heck out of...
Here's the thing, like, I don't know what we would have done, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, what statement could we have given? Like,
no, I think... And
I was like, pirated games officer. I heard a loud noise, and all of a sudden...
but, I mean, everybody buys pirated games in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, from what I understand. But, no, that sounds kind of scary.
It was sketchy.
Yeah, a little harrowing.
And, yeah.
Actually, when I lived in Montreal there, Vince, when I walked home from school, at the time, there was a bunch of arson and biker gangs were having a lot of violence. And there was a drive-by shooting literally, a few minutes, like an hour or so just before I came home, like a block from my house. And I walked by the van that had been shot up. And they had like the white sheets over the bodies, and they had like the van was all riddled in bullets. And
what neighborhood were you living in? Were you in
Tintin? No, at the time I lived in NDG.
What's that?
Notre Dame de Grâce, just down, follow de Maisonneuve through Mount Royal, and it's the next neighborhood. Oh. So it actually was right by Vendôme Station.
Right beside Shootyville.
Yeah, Shootyville, right?
What station? I'm trying to think.
Vendôme. It's on the Orange Line.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'll have to look at this.
You're on the other side of town.
Yeah.
I was on the other side. When you're a poor art student, you can't afford to live downtown.
Yeah.
So.
But then again, like, I don't know, man. Rent in Montreal so far seems cheaper than rent in Toronto or Vancouver.
Well, no, Montreal is really affordable, but they also have a lot of, because of the way the Quebec government is set up, there's a lot of tax subsidies. Yeah. And it keeps housing down. I mean, unemployment, like when I lived there, the roads in Quebec are terrible to drive in.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever, there's always road construction everywhere. And because they won't fix the roads properly, they only patch it. And that way they have something to work on next year or the year following. It's really bad. I mean, I was told,
that's the mentality. They want to make sure there's more work to do next year.
Yeah, it's really union. And I was told when I was living there that the high school graduation rate was only like 40%.
What?
So, yeah, I don't know if that's true, but I was told that. And so that's why they got to keep everybody working. Oh. At least that's, like I said, I don't know. I can't back it up. That's just what I was told.
Someone from Quebec who's listening to this is going to write in or email in saying, hey, that's all lies.
That's lies. That's lies.
Well, the good news is nobody listens to this, but other than that, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I have I've got clients in Montreal, so I mean, I don't want to be end up, picking off the wrong guy. Like, you said what about my town? You are done. No more work for you. Sacre bleu. That's one thing we teach. I taught Lily whenever she's frustrated or something. I always say, gotta say sacre bleu.
Is that your little girl, or is that
my eldest daughter?
How old is she now?
She's 4.
I don't think that's the thing. I never met any of your kids, or even your wife, for that matter.
Yeah, well, we'll have to.
Maybe you didn't meet. You've met Jessie though.
Jessie, yeah, your wife, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not Mike's wife.
No. Well, I mean,
wait, you are married, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've only seen.
Last time I said that to someone because he had a kid. I was like, oh, well, I never met your wife. He's like, you said had a wife. I was like, oh, sorry, man. He made a big deal of it. Like, I was the jerk. I was like, well, maybe you should have married that woman. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not as uptight about that. You don't have to worry about being too politically correct with this guy. But, I met my wife in Montreal, actually. We went to school together.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. So, she's actually from Vancouver Island. Oh. So, next time you come to Calgary, you just, we'll have to arrange a meetup. Maybe you can come in the summertime and we can get everyone together and have a barbecue or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. I plan to come back after my contract's done, so mid-July. I plan to go back, hopefully in time for Stampede as well. And, you know,
So how does that work? Is that common for guys in your industry to bounce around from contract to contract? Like, is it hard to get full time?
Oh, well, here's the thing. Okay, it's more the norm now. About 4 years ago, you could probably, it's more easier, like 4 years ago, to find a job back in 2000, 4 years from now, 2010, yeah. Mostly because back then the Canadian dollar was not as strong, and there wasn't as much competition, like of companies, and like most of the work was in LA. So if you were willing to move down to Los Angeles, you could stay at a company for a good like 5 years and do all right. Now it's just everyone is just hunting down these tax breaks that countries are offering, and it's really disruptive to the industry and really disruptive to, I would say, the economy in general. Like the reason why there's a lot of work in Montreal right now is because the Quebec government has
subsidies.
They're subsidizing everyone's wages. And in Vancouver, when I was working, the stat I was given was that the Vancouver government, the BC government, was subsidizing about 50% of my salary. And I was like, holy crap, like I knew they're subsidizing, but I didn't know it was that much. I thought it was like 25, 30, but it's close to 50%. And here, it's not only that, but they also get like a huge like tax break in terms of like, before, I could be wrong on this also, so don't quote me. What my understanding was, in Vancouver, the tax break was so that it was only for labor. In Montreal, it was labor and equipment. So the rent of your building that your business is in, all your equipment, that's all subsidized by 50% as well. And it's like, wow, like, if you can save an extra, like, $100,000 a year, like, why not, like, move or start a new company in Montreal, right? So right now, it's all about tax breaks. And it's kind of weird here because, unlike Vancouver, like, again, this is my opinion of what I've observed. I could be wrong, but the talent pool here isn't as experienced as Vancouver, because Vancouver at least has had these tax breaks for years, and a lot of the people from Vancouver have worked in LA, and a lot of people in LA have moved up to Vancouver to work. So there's a lot of talent there. In Montreal, it's kind of like they're trying their hardest to get as many experienced people from around, but a lot of, like, it doesn't seem like they're able to do it. Like, there's a huge reluctance right now, mostly because people in LA already don't want to move to Canada. Like, they're losing their jobs, and they've had those jobs for about 25 to 30 years, some of these guys, and they don't want to uproot their family. And, like, when we move to Canada, they just really don't want to do it. And I can understand, like, if I had a family, I wouldn't want to do it either. And, like, hell, I didn't even want to move to Montreal from Vancouver because I had everything set up. But,
well,
that really oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when I lived there, the Liberal government had just come in as the provincial government, and there was a lot of stuff at the time because of the protectionist policies with the French language and preserving the French culture. It really scared away a lot of companies, because if you moved to,
that could happen again.
Well, a lot of places were leaving, a lot of companies were leaving, and any company that, if you wanted to do business in Quebec, well, then you'd have to change all, like, your HR manual had to be in English and in French. Everything had to be bilingual, right? You'd have to hire all new bilingual staff. You had to do your taxes in Quebec. There was a lot of that stuff going on, so it was chasing away business. And a lot of people, when I was there at the time, if your mother tongue was English, you still had to go to a French school. So you couldn't go to an English immersion school. You had to go to a French school. And if you just moved there from another country, your kid automatically had to go to a French school. They couldn't go to some sort of bridging school. There was a lot of political issues about the culture that really scared. Yeah, it scared a lot of people off, and a lot of English speakers were leaving. And I personally hired a lot of African people who came. They would immigrate to Canada, and they'd be dumped in Quebec because they're from Nigeria and they speak French, but they hated Quebec, and they would come to Alberta because they preferred it.
Quebec for some reason.
Well, it depends who you talk to and where you go. You can have a bad experience anywhere, right? But there's more work here, less taxes, so that could be it. Or whatever. I do. Yeah, a lot of companies. Like when I lived there weren't any video game companies. None of the big ones. They had some small outfits, but EA wasn't there, and Ubisoft, IDOS and Ubisoft, and none of those places were there. But now they're all there, right? And BioWare, and they get massive. And that's the incentive to keep them there.
Yeah, like the one anecdotal story I heard from a friend of mine who has lived in Montreal for a while. He does follow this these political, like these French political things that happen. This one company, they were told you have to have all your meetings in French because you got, I guess at a certain size, like they have like a certain, I don't know. He called it the French police. I don't know if that is the actual designation.
Yeah, they have like a cultural sensitivity. Whatever. Anyways, continue your story.
So these guys actually went into their offices, this company's office, and found out, hey, you guys, your meetings are not in French. Like, why is that? Like, your company's over, like, I think it was 200 people. And it was over 200 people. You guys are required by law to have all your meetings in French. And they were like, what? This is weird. Like, all our clients are English. A lot of our, employees are English. Like, we can't have every meeting in French. Like, this is this unreasonable. And it's like stuff like that makes me go, wow, that can't be real, right? Like, can it? Like, can someone just come up to you and say, hey, your company has to have all your meetings in French, and make it so, kind of thing. Like, what next time you're on the like, what can they do to you if your company doesn't comply? Like, really, like,
they'll fine you.
Really?
Yeah, they're the government. They make the laws. They can fine you or, do whatever. Next time you take the metro, look at the emergency exit information. When I was there, well, there is English, but it's the wall of the trains are the trains is painted white, right? And the emergency information is a light gray decal below the big blue emergency information in French. So yeah, it is bilingual, but you really got to look hard to find it, right? And driving around in Quebec, it's really tough. I found it really tough. So they have a lot of, the French-English issue is really, there was a lot of tension there when I lived there. There was a lot of problems, and I think that's just ongoing. I don't know. My wife's family they're not into that. But my buddy's wife, she is like militant separatist. Really? So, yeah.
I haven't really experienced that yet. Thank goodness.
Well, wait till your first. What is it Jean Baptiste? That's their.
Jean Baptiste Day?
I
think July.
Yeah. Wait till you're there for that. Then all the blue flags will come out.
Oh, really?
And then you'll see, what's going on. But I don't know. Montreal is different. Try driving around the rest of Quebec. It's
that's what I
Quebec's,
hear.
Yeah.
Here outside of Montreal, the rest of Quebec is not so English friendly.
They're not so what?
English friendly.
No, well, they don't speak it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
In Quebec City, they'll speak English in the old city for tourists, but that's it. And anywhere else in Quebec, you won't find anyone who speaks English. At least not in like, it's not common. Right, you go get gas. Your gas guy is not going to speak. Generally, isn't going to speak English. At least when I did it. And even if you go into northern New Brunswick, a lot of people don't speak English there. So, I didn't feel like I was back in English Canada until I hit southern New Brunswick. So
I've never been to New Brunswick.
yeah, it's really nice. Lots of bugs.
I got to see more of the country. Honestly, I have lived here for nearly all my life, and I have not been to Prince Edward Island or any of the Maritimes, for that matter.
Huh.
And I've never been to Saskatchewan. So,
Well,
You're not missing that much there, but
go there once. You've seen it.
back to it, take a picture.
I was in the same boat as you, Vince. I traveled and I had seen a lot of the world, but I'd never seen my own country. And I just that's when I did my road trip and went coast to coast.
Oh.
So I can say now I've been to all the provinces except for Newfoundland, and I haven't made it up to.
Yeah,
Pardon
you've
me?
been up to the Northwest Territories?
Yeah, I went all the way up to Dawson City. But I did that a few years ago for my buddy's wedding. He got married in Whitehorse. And then my wife and I drove up to Dawson. And that's wild. If you've ever been to the north? Like the Arctic?
No.
No, like where the sun doesn't go down. It really does. You read about it, you hear about it. To actually experience it, whoa, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's really wild.
I guess, yeah. Like, here's the thing. I've never even seen the Northern Lights.
Well, you can see them here.
yeah, you can probably.
Calgary?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
I've seen them.
They
Well,
were-
I've
they
seen
were-
them here a few times, but
They were visible a few days ago.
What?
Not, yeah.
With all that
In
light
Calgary,
pollution.
it's harder to see them because of the glare from
yeah,
the
you
city.
gotta
But,
get out of
Yeah,
the
like-
city.
yeah, but my mom lives in Pritis, and you can see them from her front door every winter, pretty much.
Oh,
So they're around. You're just not looking up at the sky,
I
Vince.
guess so.
You're staring at your computer screen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
So, what have you been working on this whole time since I haven't been able to see?
It's painting all these masks for these scales for my lizard man, and it's an old project. I had been working on this for a while.
Is that like a personal project?
Yeah. Like, I haven't worked on this character in a while, but I've started this character like 4 years ago, maybe more. I just have it sitting around and I never finished it, and I definitely want to finish this project this year. Like, this is so close to finished, but yeah, I've always been either too busy or just lazy. Is probably the best word. I haven't been working on this diligently until
Well,
I
what's
was
it for?
it's a personal project for my portfolio. Like, the time I got to work on this, like deliberately work on this every day, was when I was unemployed, and I made so much headway. But yeah, I haven't touched it since I got this job. So yeah, here I am painting masks with these scales. Yeah.
So are you always updating your portfolio? Is that what the reason is for this, or?
Yeah. Mostly, I would say my demo reel looks pretty anemic because a lot of the projects I've worked on have not been very impressive.
Okay.
Well, except you
The spiel I give.
got that, like, what, Avatar and Lord of the Rings things. They're not very impressive, though.
It's not
Okay,
that
maybe
impressive.
you should tell us some of your credits first. Because we know you worked at Weta.
Oh,
We know
yeah,
you know, like,
guys said. Okay, yeah.
this is
The
maybe for
audience,
someone who's
for the
tuning in.
audience.
They're like, "Who's this Vince guy?" It's like, okay, well, Vince
Well,
blah,
okay.
and you worked where,
Right.
things like that.
For the audience, okay.
Because it's hard to get the context.
Okay, so I met Mike and Owen through school. Well, we all went to this now defunct and laid to rest multimedia training center in Calgary, and it was, you know what, it was a good experience, but a terrible school. But anyways, we met through there, and I don't know what else to touch on. I think I can touch on the fact that Owen and I we worked at this one small Calgary studio called Orenya that I don't know if it's still around in some
Well,
fashion.
New Machine,
Yeah, it's
Machine,
still
I
around
think,
in
is
some
still
fashion.
around.
But yeah, we were working on there, and then we had this genius idea to work in Hong Kong. So we moved to Hong Kong with another colleague of ours, Chi, who may or may not be in this podcast next week. And we
I don't
worked
know
there
how much art Chi's been doing. Well, he might have been doing art, but
he's
hasn't
more
been.
of an artist than I am. I think all you guys are way more artistic than me.
He's a fine artist. He's got the paper.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Oh
certainly,
yeah, he's got the
certainly.
degree.
I just
So-
don't know if he's still doing it. At last time he was doing.
Or at least
Last
maybe
time I
not
talked to him,
computer
he was
art. He's
doing
probably
something
doing a few paintings.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure. Anyway, sorry.
So, so the three of us were working in Hong Kong for a few months. Chi actually stayed for a few years. Owen and I decided to come back.
You didn't decide to come back.
I decided to come back. I said to myself, you know what, this is not going where I wanted. My career is basically making...
The government of China decided you should come back.
No, I decided...
You had the option to return.
No, I decided that this was a terrible idea. Because our job, I didn't explain, but our job in Hong Kong was basically design flash games for this company. But this company didn't really have any direction, and it was kind of run as kind of like as a shell company to lose money, because the parent company was a big shipping
Tax
company.
shelter?
And
Okay.
in order to
Yeah,
get
it was a
certain-
giant, huge shipping company.
Yeah. And I
that
guess
had-
they needed, needed to move money around, because our boss or head of our company was actually the daughter of this big shipping tycoon. So I guess it was kind of the way of kind of moving money around without, I don't know.
It was looking like you're diversifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways,
So they brought in some
I saw
experts
no
from Canada?
point at this job.
Okay.
I saw no point to this job. I honestly said to myself, I need to leave. I'm not getting anything out of this. And I wanted to be, I was very ambitious back then. I wanted to be in movies. I thought my dream was, move to Los Angeles, buy a Porsche, work on the new Star Wars movies, and date Natalie Portman. But,
That's still a lot of work.
honestly, those
She's
are
still not
very
returning your
lofty
calls, though,
dreams.
right?
Yeah, those are very lofty dreams. And
Right.
And she doesn't have a nice neck.
Lumpy neck.
so we moved back to Calgary. I worked at Orenia again on another project. I don't know if that, it was for a Christmas special for CTV. I'm not too sure if it's even showing anymore, but you can probably look up the Elfkin's First Christmas. That was my big break, really, because it was an actual piece of work that was broadcast. Because before then, I did very unknown commercials for various weird clients. I don't know. You remember? Owen, do you remember Plotman?
Yeah.
So it was these stupid corporate commercials. But anyways, after that, I worked at Lost Boys for a short stint until I got my other big break. That my friends Ron Miller, he got me a job in Toronto at Core Feature Animation, because at the time Disney wanted to make animated features themselves, and it was before they bought up Pixar. Pixar was part of Disney. They were just their own independent, or I don't know what the official title Pixar had at the time, but they weren't really with Disney. And Disney wanted to make an animated movie, so they hired a bunch of Toronto artists, and honestly, it was the best time ever. I think that was where I grew the most, because prior to that, I've never lived. Actually, I was gonna say I never lived in a big city, but we lived in Hong Kong, so I guess that didn't count. But anyways, I never actually lived, as in I never actually went out and did stuff. I never actually socialized. So yeah, Toronto was a big growing up experience for me, because I was on my own. I had to find my own place. Just grew up, I guess. back to work. So yeah, I worked on the Wild, where I was doing texturing and fur. A little known fact that I never told anyone though is that after about a week or two, I actually wanted to leave. I actually hated my work at Core because it was so mundane and boring. And I had this big ego. Like I said, I wanted to move to LA and get a Porsche and date Natalie Portman. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen if I'm going to be working on these furry animals and, painting on, these small little props. I had to get out. But at the same time, I was plagued by laziness, which I am still plagued by now. And I never actually pulled the trigger and left. I just stayed. And stayed for about 2 years, or 3 years actually, until the movie finished. And after that, I worked. Well, I got laid off because the movie finished. But by that time, Disney and Pixar got together, and Disney kind of didn't need to partner up with Core anymore. So Core Features kind of downsized, and they never got another project, which is unfortunate. So during that time, I went to Stars, and they had a movie that was backed by a Christian group called Everybody's Hero, or Everyone's Hero. And it was about this little boy wanting to meet Babe Ruth. I can't remember much of the movie because it wasn't very memorable. I'm sorry, everyone who worked on it. But anyway, yeah, I worked on that, and I was doing again texture and look dev stuff. And I guess, yeah, I guess I'm allowed to mention it. I was working on another project for Stars right before they went near the bankrupt. It's called Sheepish, and at the time I didn't have a very pleasant experience with my lead. I don't know if I should get into it, but she kind of threw me under the bus a few too many times, and I couldn't take the blame for any more of these like stupid mistakes and whatnot. So I had to leave because I felt like I was being totally mistreated. And at that time I also was in a weird relationship. I had a girlfriend at the time. It was strangely, I don't want to advertise this, but it was actually my first girlfriend, and I didn't know how to break up with her. So when the opportunity came to move to New Zealand, I just took it because, what better way to break up with someone than to say, look, I'm moving to New Zealand. I can't be with you anymore. So
did she say, I'll go with you?
Oh yeah, but I was like, no, your life is in Toronto.
This is for the best.
I don't want to take that away from you. I'm sure you'll meet someone else. Yeah. And sure enough, a year later, she got engaged, which strangely enraged me. Like I remember being at Weta, and I remember getting the email, and I got into my car, and started driving around Wellington because I was so angry that that she moved down before me. So it was, I was so immature back then. Anyways, so I was in New Zealand at Weta working on Avatar and District 9 and The Lovely Bones and parts of Tintin and at that time
didn't you do Snowy?
I was supposed to, but I was doing such a terrible job that, and because Weta is so okay, I'm just gonna come on and say it. They don't know how to manage people, so when it's like, well, you're not okay. Instead of coming out and saying, "Look, you're not doing a very good job. We have to take you out of here, and put you on a different thing," they just said, "Well, you're doing an all right job, but how about we try letting Eric take a look at this, because Eric was my lead, and I've worked with him before, and I think Owen knows Eric.
Yeah.
He's actually the lead rigger right now. Well, he's always will be the lead rigger at Weta, and they were like, yeah, why don't we let Eric take a look at this? Maybe he can work on the leg for you for a bit, and then maybe work on this other bit for him. And eventually, I was like, I'll just give it to Eric. I'm in over my head. I can't do this. And they're like, yeah, that's probably for the best. Their management style is kind of like, well, we'll just wait till you're. Well, this never happened to me, by the way. This happened to another coworker. It was like, we really don't like this guy, so we'll just ride out his contract for another. Like, his contract was up in about 7 more months, so they just waited it out. Like, they just put him in a corner, gave him very menial tasks, and just waited out the contract. They didn't want to confront him and say, look, you're not working out, we gotta let you go. And they just waited it out. They said, all right, we're just gonna have to just wait it out.
They're just so nice they can't fire you.
I think it's because they were just inexperienced. They didn't know how to deal with people and confrontation. It was kind of like, well, like, instead of going, like, I remember this one guy, he would come into work late consistently. So instead of sending an email to the guy specifically, or walking to his desk saying, hey, I noticed you come in late, a few times, it'd be better if you, show up at around 9:30 like everyone else. They would send a blanket email to the whole company saying, yeah, so we're hitting into like some crunch time. We'd like to have everyone in by about 9:30, just so we know everyone's here and doing like all their hours, which would kind of freak everyone out, because a lot of people would be like, well, what the hell, like, aren't I doing my own hours? Like, why are we all getting these emails? And have people been leaving early? And it turns out, no, they just wanted to give a hint to this one specific guy that, just show up on time and not get drunk on a Tuesday night kind of thing. So,
yeah.
So anyways, at that time, I was like, I like rigging and all, but I'm not really doing much. Like, I'm not really, like, I'm doing rigs. It's cool, but I was never, I guess it's my ego as well. I felt like I was not flourishing. I was not achieving what I should have been achieving. I'm not being an artist. And I also felt like I don't know, I guess I've since let this go, but I had to be the best at everything I had to do, or I was doing, or I'd be a failure. So I was like, well, I'm not the best rigger. I have to be the best at what I'm doing. And I'm definitely not the best. So let's leave this job and go work somewhere else. So I decided to go to Australia and work on Happy Feet 2, where I was a texture book dev fur artist. And I was doing that. And I guess.
How do you feel about that? Better? That work out?
Better, yeah. When I got there, I was like, wow, I'm actually able to paint and do stuff. I wasn't the top of my class. Like, I think part of me was like, like, they would give me main characters to work on, and it was kind of daunting because I had never painted anything. Like, all my time in Weta, I was just doing rigging. I've never opened up Photoshop. I haven't even opened up, like, I think Houdini. Yeah, they're using Houdini. I haven't used Houdini since, like, core, so that was about 6 years, like, 5 years prior to. So I was kind of like, wow, what have I got myself into? But eventually I was like, doing all right, I'm not top of my class, but also I didn't care anymore. I was like, you don't have to be top of your class to, like your job. Just be normal. So I finished that movie, and it's not like I disliked the movie. I actually liked the work. I can get into more political stuff, but I don't want to do it. Then I got a job in Vancouver after, and the job. Okay, I loved working with the people at Ribbon Hughes, Vancouver, but the work I got to do was so small. Mostly that was done, mostly that was because of politics. This was the not the first satellite studio RNH opened up. They opened up an Indian studio, well, 2 Indian studios and a Taiwan studio. And I guess they anticipated the Vancouver studio to be like India and Taiwan, where you send work up there and it won't get done because people are not experienced. So let's not bother giving them anything really hard. Let's just give them very menial tasks. And let's, we don't want to lose any more work from Los Angeles. Let's just not bring up too much work up there. And there was that kind of political ideology that made not only me, but a lot of my coworkers too feel like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm just sitting around collecting a paycheck. Like, I got nothing to do, and whatever I do get, I get done, but the communication's so bad that I just don't understand what's expected of me, or what are these notes? Like, I don't know. It seemed like Rhythm and Hughes did not anticipate having a fully functional studio up in Vancouver, because they didn't, like, as much as they say, or people disagree with me, there wasn't enough training, because a lot of the people would assume, like a lot of people in Toronto, Los Angeles would assume that things were done the Los Angeles way up in Vancouver, but the truth is, like, couldn't, because everything had to be video conferenced and wired over, and it was kind of a weird experience for everyone, because normally in a company, like, if everyone's in house, you can just walk to whoever's computer and say, oh, can I take a look at this thing, or hey, I got a problem with this, can you come over and debug this for me? Because it was like, in 2 different cities, it was just like, well, what's wrong with this? Well, obviously that guy's stupid, so let's just not even bother. Or, like, it was kind of like you just assumed the other guy's wrong. You never kind of had this, well, maybe the setup here is wrong, or maybe something kind of isn't right in between, or maybe there's a misunderstanding. It was kind of like the assumption that the other guy fucked up, so it's his fault. Let him fix it. And it's like, well, no, there's things in between here. There's a miscommunication, something. But anyways, that was something that always bugged me with the studio. But otherwise, it was a very positive experience, and I worked on, what was it, Percy Jackson 2, which no one saw, and R.I.P.D., which again no one saw. And yeah, that's my reel right now. My demo reel right now is R.I.P.D. and Percy Jackson 2.
Well, except
somebody had to work on those.
Effects people see it, because that's, or they see it and recognize it on the reel and go, oh yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Like it doesn't really matter what the quality of the, like,
but people
are getting jobs based on Transformers stuff. It's not like the quality of the movie is any indicator.
Guess maybe I'm selling myself horribly here. But here's the thing, Owen. Like, my job now, like at Micros doing Little Prince, is so much more involved. Like, I get to paint textures and do all the look development with, like, shaders. RNH, I wasn't allowed to paint any textures because I was seen as inexperienced. I could not paint. And, all I was given was basically, here are all the textures in this file, hook them up into a shader, hit render, and show us these renders tomorrow. And it's like, that's it? Like, this is kind of half the job. It's not like a full job. Like, if there's anything, if there's something like I wanted to fix, I would have to email the texture artist and say, look, I think you should change the color map or paint a better, like, spec map. And it would be like, why can't I do this? Like, I know how to open up, like, Photoshop and just start painting stuff. And it was very maddening. Like, I felt like I had my hands tied, or I had, like, just the other half of a project that I could easily fix or finish, but I can't. So that's the thing. When I get again, like I said, it's my selling of myself. I could elaborate or maybe not elaborate, well, embellish on my role and say, yeah, I did everything you see here, but I don't. I just say, well, technically, I didn't do the textures. I just fiddled around with the shaders. And employers would look at that or hear that and go, so what did you do? I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to say.
Do you feel like that's not uncommon? Or is this
I find that
like
very uncommon because I think part of the reason why Rhythm and Hues went bankrupt was because they weren't modernizing. Like they operated like an old 1990s company where if you're a painter, you can only paint, and if you are like for I don't know why they stuck me just a look dev artist and not a texture painter, but they just were like, well, you only do one role. You can't do more than one. And I think that instead of hiring like two people to do one thing, they could have hired one person. They could have hired me to do texture and look dev. I do the back end. The other guy does the front end. You know, it was kind of like, well, why not combine the roles? And in a lot of companies right now, like they hire one artist to do everything, like from modeling, animation, texture, look dev, lighting, comp. Like they do like 5-6 roles, and those companies are still around. Actually, they're still doing a lot of work. Like Scanline does that. Like NPC does that. Like I don't know. Like there's a lot of things that ruined R&H, but I do think that was part of it. Like the fact they were operating like a 1990s like company where everyone's very specialized. Everyone is incapable of expanding into different roles, kind of thing. And yeah, that's why I feel like my reel sucks because I can't. Like I said, I can embellish and lie and say, look, I did everything you see here. Like I did the textures, I did like the shaders, I did everything. But I feel bad doing that because I didn't. Like, I didn't really do the textures on this. I just did the shader work.
Well, and I think part of the thing is though that nobody does everything. There's no like if you don't say we did that, then you're probably no matter what you're doing, you're probably lying or saying I worked on this, not I did that. Like it's. And that I don't know. That kind of goes for almost everything, if it's of any kind of quality, except for Mike's stuff. Mike did all Mike's stuff, right, Mike?
Sure.
Really, you do?
Oh, I do.
I'm a Dan. I'm the whole package.
I'm not really. It's not really a team effort. It's just art director tells me I want this, and I mean, I guess it's a team effort when. You know, the other art directors and people chime in and say, change this, fix that, but no, it's mostly just me. So, but I'm going to have to shut her down, guys.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to shut her
down. I didn't want to leave it on a down note. I wanted to...
Yeah. Well, it was really good talking to you again, Vince. We'll have to do it again soon. Thanks for chiming in and filling us in on the wide world of Vince.
Hopefully no one's listening to this.
Yeah.
Alright, so how do we end this?
We just
signing out.
Signing out. Yeah.
Over and out.
Alright, stop stream. Alright. Goodbye, guys.
There.